To obstruct our investigation.
So here's the thing. I can leave you and let you
comply with your investigation.
You're not required to comply with our investigation?
No, I don't have to assist you.
I mean, you have to answer our questions if we're conducting an investigation. Otherwise, you're obstructing our investigation.
Really? Is that how the Fifth Amendment works? The Fourth Amendment? First Amendment?
Do you know your amendments?
I don't think you do.
My name is Lieutenant Colonel Lee Roger Wolfgram, and I am a storyteller. Welcome to the bunker. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Colonel channel. The video that I have for you today is another one that comes from Audit the Audit, so be sure to go and check out the full video there that has case citations, goes through the case law. Let's just jump into this video and you can tell me what your thoughts are. I will tell you what my thoughts are. You tell me from the beginning, what crime do you see that the officers are investigating?
Sleeping in his vehicle in a private parking lot in Pryor Creek, Oklahoma. The encounter that followed was captured on Officer Bennett's body camera.
Okay, Pryor, you might start master this way. This guy doesn't look like he's alert. He's got some kind of liquid coming out of his mouth.
Okay, he's got some liquid coming out of his mouth. He's laying there or he's sitting in the vehicle. So there's a call. Maybe it's a call for safety. Maybe the guy's had some medical stuff. So I don't believe that just this encounter because of a call every time results in an investigation. The investigation might be, yeah, there's no criminal activity at foot here. Have a nice day. That's what should have occurred. But as soon as somebody tries to assert their rights, then it's an ego thing. Then you're going to hear a little assistant cop chime in. I think this should be done in the jail. Watch.
Run down his shirt.
Okay, so now we can see through the window before we even have a discussion here, it's not a medical. There's no reason for a medical. It's not a medical.
How you doing? Not bad. You okay?
Yeah, you?
Not bad. So, what's going on? You're sitting in your truck?
Okay, do we have a crime here? Do we have suspicion of a crime? The only suspicion of the crime is not based on any observable anything. It's just the cop has a hunch that maybe this guy is drunk or maybe this guy is using drugs. It's just a hunch. And now he's cleared the idea that there's some medical emergency here that will require police involvement. And so now we're going to make up things.
Okay. You got anything to drink today? No?
Well, that answers that question, doesn't it? He said no. Is there a strong odor of alcohol emanating from the vehicle? No, because otherwise you would see later in the video there was some discussion of that. There's not. In fact, the cop doesn't even want a breath test later on. He wants a blood test. So that tells you there's no indication of indicia of alcohol. There's no odor. That's why he wants a blood test, because that's the only thing that's going to work. Once he amps this up, once he violates people's rights by making things up, the only save is he's going to need a blood test, because maybe that's going to save this at the end. See, I was right.
Any kind of medication or anything?
Yeah,
Where are you coming from? Okay, what are you doing here? What are you doing in Pryor? What brings you here? Where are you headed? North?
What do you think would happen if he just stopped answering questions right here, right? Because the cop's asking all these questions. Well, you could ask all those questions of the cop too. They don't have to answer. You don't have to answer. So suppose right now he rolled up his window. What happens now? Well, based on these officers' attitudes, I will tell you they would amp it up anyway. They're going to make something out of it. It's pretty clear they're antagonistic, confrontational from the beginning, and this is going to happen whether he likes it or whether there's any legal basis for it or not. It's just going to happen. Either comply or threats of some legal action, and their favorite, of course, is arrest because they get to do that. And if you resist the arrest because you claim that there's no constitutional reason for you to be even detained or arrested, well, then it's obstruction of that unconstitutional arrest. That's the new thing that lad.
Okay. You know anybody in Pryor, or you just happen to? Well, I mean, you're kind of pulled off here in this parking lot a little bit weird. You're a little bit in the roadway.
Okay, so articulate the crime. A little bit, kind of. Is there a crime? That was the question, and you need it, officer. You need it, because I don't know why you're still there if your concern was a medical, if there's no law violated. We'll get into that. What is exactly the violation here? It's a real stretch, but boy, we can sure threaten to take you to jail and take you to jail.
So somebody called in on you. Is there a crime? Yeah. I mean, you're standing in the roadway.
Standing in the roadway?
That's what the technical term is for it. Right. That's what medical is awake now. Talking to him. So I get here, and I mean, you're drooling all over yourself. I started medical. I knocked on your window a couple of times.
Drooling all over myself?
Look at your shirt. Whenever I got here, you were actively drooling on yourself. I knocked on the window, and I got no response. So I knocked again.
All consistent with sleeping. A total legal, natural function of a human being.
What's the time in there?
You're partially obstructing the roadway. You're pulled off here on private property.
Okay, well, if he's on private property there and you don't have the ability to enforce any traffic lines or parking lines on private property, they're not part of the statute, it's private property. And unless somebody with the private property has an objection to him being in that public parking spot, time to go, cop. You're done. There's nothing illegal here. And we'll stretch to make it in the roadway. He just doesn't like the way the guy parked, and there's no lines. And even if there were lines, they don't count.
You have no business being here, so that's loitering.
Is this someone called you?
Somebody called me. I don't know who called me. Dispatch is the one who called me. Somebody called dispatch. It's private property, and you have no business here. Well, I've asked you, and you haven't told me, so... Well, I'm investigating a possible crime.
Okay, what is that crime?
So if you're intoxicated, passed out behind the wheel, if you've taken something...
You're investigating for intoxication?
Yeah, which is okay. I don't have...
Okay, so why? Why is he being investigated for being intoxicated? Does he sound slurred? Does his words sound slurred? Is there an odor of alcohol emanating from the vehicle? Or is it just because the guy slept and the cops showed up, so now we're going to have a DWI investigation because it's odd for people to sleep in their vehicle? It may be odd. It may be an odd time of day. It's not illegal. You don't get to just make things up.
With that, if you're just taking a... If you want to play the... Why don't you go ahead and step out of the vehicle?
Oh, if you want to play that, then get out of the vehicle. We're going to amp this up. Yep, we know how this goes.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. If you want to, it's up to you. You want to leave the door open or you want to shut it? No, it's up to you again. I don't care. Do you have identification on you?
No.
You do not. So what is your name and date of birth?
Andrew, A-N-D-R-U, Martin. So this is the road here?
Yeah, I mean...
Or is this the road?
So the city maintains the roadway all the way to here, and then...
Look, cop, if you're going to be out there threatening someone that they're violating the law, but you don't even know where the road begins and ends, then how can you articulate that? He's asking you to articulate what the violation is, and you give him some private property, public easement bull.
Have an easement over here, and then that's private property. So if you're on private property, you have private property that you have no business being on, and then you're partially in the roadway.
Says who he has no business being there. Have you talked to the private property owner? Did they file a complaint? Do you go around to all the private property in the area and make sure nobody's standing on it or parking on it without permission?
Does the easement begin?
Say it again.
The easement begin?
The easement begin?
Yeah.
I don't know where the easement
road
begins.
or ends?
I know where the road begins and ends.
So
I
where's
don't
the
know where
road
the
begin?
easement begins and
The
ends.
road begin and end, yeah.
So, do you have a driver's license in any state?
Don't answer the question
What state do you have your driver's license in?
because you can't.
Oklahoma?
Do you know where the road begins and ends? I
It's a
mean,
really weird question.
it's a weird question. Not when I'm being ticketed for parking.
You haven't been ticketed for anything.
Oh, see that smart ass cop come back? You're not being ticketed for anything. Well, I thought you're investigating a crime. So he said ticketed, and then you just come back. See, it's just this smarmy comeback, you know, because they're just used to trampling on people's rights. So they got to come back for anything. You're not the first guy they violated here.
Tried to ask you a matter of simple questions so I could conduct my investigation, and all you want to do is be difficult.
Your investigation was for what again?
I want to be difficult.
I mean,
You're being difficult. I was minding my own business and you're bothering me. I don't know how that's me being difficult.
We wouldn't have showed up here if we didn't have a call here, so on you.
Well, that's first of all, that's not true.
100%
And I
it
can,
is.
so I can call on you, and then that doesn't mean that someone's going to come and investigate you.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
That's exactly how this works.
Well, I can investigate it because he
Okay.
told me
You're
that.
good. You, whatever you need to do.
I'll be right back. All right, Mr. Martin. So, the condition that you were in when I got here, like I said, you were pulled off the road here asleep. Looks like, do you live at... You don't live there anymore? It's the address that shows on your driver's license.
Where do you live?
Nearby.
Nearby them.
The address.
Is that relevant question?
It is. That's. I'm literally asking you because you're sleeping in your truck right here.
And what is the law about sleeping in your truck right here?
And I don't know that you're going to be safe to drive anywhere. So yeah,
Well, you don't need to know everybody's safe to drive somewhere just because you asked and you decided to come there and you looked and now I got to make sure you're safe to drive. What are the indications that he's not safe to drive?
absolutely.
How would I not be safe? So am I safe to
Where-
drive
what's
to
your
Middle
address?
Trace or am I
What's your
safe to
address?
drive to Portland or?
What's your address?
I don't know what that is.
It's going to be like this the whole time.
Yeah.
So you can continue to obstruct our
So
investigation.
here's the thing. I can leave you and let you...
comply with your investigation.
You're not required to comply with our investigation?
No, I don't have to assist you.
I mean, you have to answer our questions if we're conducting an investigation.
That's
Otherwise,
exactly.
otherwise you're obstructing our investigation.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So, in other words, if you're asserting your Fifth Amendment right, you're obstructing their investigation because they're not able to get more information to justify the fact that you're being illegally detained? I think I got that right.
Amendment, First Amendment?
Do you know your amendments?
I don't think you do.
I don't think she does either.
Okay, so I can put you through a couple of standard field sobriety tests and see if you're good to drive. And if
Well-
you are, then we'll get out of here and we'll let you drive.
Well, while we're here, why don't we look at where that roadway is there? Why don't we look and see where the thoroughfare of traffic goes? And I don't see the truck on that at all. It seems to me there's a seam there on the road. There's no there's no curb. And then it goes up to a parking area. I don't know how that's on the roadway at all. And then there was this discussion about easements and all. It doesn't matter. That's just gobbledygook made up.
Okay, and we won't ask you more
For
questions.
sitting in a vehicle in private property.
Somebody calling in because they were concerned about you, because you were partially on the roadway.
A lot closer to harassment on your part than we are.
We can go to the jail and we can do this in front of a
I mean,
judge.
yeah, I'm not-
and
Sure,
we
could.
can
I
have
mean,
that conversation
probably
there.
should. I mean,
If that's what you...
Well, and that's their trump card, right? Well, we can do this. You can do this from jail. So now what? Now what do? Even if they're wrong, they have qualified immunity. So unless there's some case law that says specifically in this instance they have violated your rights, they just get to get away with it. They go home at night. They don't care. They're just arresting people. It's their job. Your day is completely screwed. And if they're wrong, you have no recourse. So just submit or this is what's going to happen. Typical bully cop tactic.
want to do.
That's absolutely fine.
want to do that. If I wanted to do that, I would have driven to the...
I don't want to do that either. If I wanted to do that.
Driven to a parking space. See the difference?
There actually is a law against sleeping in public.
Really?
Yeah.
So
it's a
am I
city
in public
ordinance.
or am I on private property?
If you're at the park, like you just said,
I didn't say the public.
maybe.
I said a parking space.
Public
Or
access.
public
So,
property.
do you live in these apartments?
Do you?
Do you live in these apartments?
Do you?
No, I don't live in these
Okay.
apartments. Do you? I answered your question. You got to answer
Well,
mine.
You're giving me a ticket for being in the room.
Have I given you a ticket yet?
Investigating? No, because you can't.
No, because he's trying to get a bigger ticket. He's trying to get a DWI ticket, and he's trying to basically intimidate this guy into taking a test when he has absolutely nothing other than the guy was sleeping in a public area.
Being in the roadway.
I can't?
Well, you told me. Well, I mean, you could, but
I give you a ticket for. I could pick for being in the roadway or loitering because you're on private property that you claim to have no business being
well,
at.
I'm sure that I could go in front of a judge and argue my case and be fairly successful rather quickly and easily by.
And that's fine. If you want to go and argue your case in court, if you want to go argue your case in court, that's fine. But I'm not going to argue it with you here on the side of the road.
Right.
Okay, so you
You're
can.
going to give me a ticket for being unsafe when I told you exactly what I did, which was.
He's going to conduct a couple
In
of
the name of
tests,
safety,
field sobriety
right?
tests. Are you willing to
Are you
comply
willing?
with those
Are you
tests?
willing to comply with some field sobriety tests?
So what are my options then? Go to jail or
Are
do
you
what you tell me
willing to comply with the field sobriety test?
with the
That's the
I'm not
question.
threatening you at all.
Nobody threatened you. Nobody
I am
said
here to do
anything
my
other
job.
So I don't have to. Am I free to go?
No, you are
No, you're not free to go.
Oh, well, yeah, you're not free to go.
So conducting our investigation. If you allow me to finish conducting my investigation, and you will.
If you allow me to continue to violate your constitutional rights, ask you to perform tests that really have no scientific value whatsoever, are completely subjective, so that at the end of those tests, I can determine that there's something off because there's really no scoring, and then I can force you to take a blood test, or if you don't, or if you refuse at this point in time, I can take away your driver's license. And in some states, the refusal is an independent crime.
I don't understand. I'm not refusing.
Okay.
Okay.
So you'll agree
Well, I
to take
don't-
the state step?
What I don't understand is what indication that I'm intoxicated I've given at any point in this other than I drove. Is that against the law?
It's uncommon at 3 o'clock in the afternoon for somebody
Okay,
to be asleep behind the wheel of their vehicle,
How many police
not
officers are asleep?
legally parked in a parking space on
Should we go
private
investigate
property.
them?
Will you comply with
All that was just wrong, just plain wrong. Like, it doesn't matter what time a day you sleep, whether it's odd or not is not a crime, whether he's on the roadway, he's not. And again, they're just reaching for things. He's just throwing stuff out there. Loitering in a vehicle? He wasn't loitering. I don't even think there's a statute that would cover sitting in your vehicle being loitering.
field sobriety tests or not?
Well, what? Oh, I
Yes
remember
or
you.
no?
What?
Yes,
I
yes or
remember
no?
you. You remember me, don't you?
No. Yes or
Yeah,
no?
you do. Okay. Now I feel like this is harassment. Is there a supervisor available?
He
That's
is
me.
the
I'm the
supervisor.
Where's
supervisor.
your supervisor?
He is the
I am the
supervisor of
We
the
had
shift.
this same conversation. Was that you? Were you there?
I don't believe so. I don't believe I've ever met you
I
before.
don't even know where I would have met you. So yes or no? Yes or no?
See,
Yes or no?
You didn't understand what private property was when you were in an apartment complex. You thought that was public property. Do you remember that now?
Do you live in
I
this
say we
apartment complex?
No, he doesn't. I'm familiar. So I think
Oh, now all of a sudden. Okay, so again, just cops manipulation, right? Oh, I don't know you. I don't even know where I'd met you. Oh, I'm familiar.
you just go to Mace County Jail.
I'm going to go to the county jail for.
Obstruction at this point.
All you want to do is sit and argue.
I'm not arguing.
He
I'm
was
asking-
intoxicated then.
No, I wasn't.
And that's what I feel like he's intoxicated now. Otherwise, you wouldn't be passed out behind the wheel of his
I
vehicle.
wasn't passed out over.
He wasn't passed out. He was sleeping. So he must be intoxicated if he's, again, these are just words the cop comes out of his mouth. He's putting it on the camera. It's for him to remind himself of the reason why he's doing it. Because if you just look at it, there's nothing there.
Sleep. That's why I woke up with knock. I told you I drove to this parking space to do that. I'd like to speak to a supervisor.
He is
You
the
are speaking to a
supervisor.
I'd like to speak
supervisor.
to your supervisor.
They're all out right now.
It's weird. That happens every time I want to speak to a supervisor.
There's one
You asked
supervisor
for my
assigned.
supervisor and he's right here.
There's one supervisor. There's one supervisor assigned per shift. Okay, that's me.
So then, if
At 6 o'clock this afternoon, there will be a different supervisor here.
violating people's laws, and we're just all.
I mean,
That's a
you don't.
conversation you can have with the judge.
You don't have a
if you-
constitutional right to speak to a supervisor anyway. I'm trying to work with you here.
We've tried. We've tried to ask. You don't have a ticket in your hand.
Okay, so am I free to go?
No,
Okay,
you've been
you
asked if you
threatened
will
me with
comply.
arrest for sitting in the car, taking a nap, when I told you I'm taking a nap because I'm too tired to drive. I had a little bit further to go, and I was tired, so I pulled over to the nap.
And you won't even tell me how far that is to go.
What does it say in the driver's manual to do when you're becoming too tired to drive? So you should keep on going? Pull over somewhere safe to sleep?
Somewhere safe to sleep? I mean, I don't think
Where
that's...
is somewhere safe?
I mean, legally parked, we could argue that. Even though this isn't...
We've gone over this and over this and over this. You're not even in a parking spot at all. You're not in a parking spot. We got called here because of you specifically, and this truck specifically.
I'm not in the road.
You are in the easement. Look, if you look at that sign right there,
The easement
and
goes all the way to
the
the center line.
it's still city property.
I'm done.
Turn
around.
Yes, turn around.
Dude,
Turn around. We're done. We tried.
you tried what? You tried
To reason with you, and you're unreasonable.
reason with me.
It's hard to reason with somebody who's intoxicated anyway, so that makes sense.
No indication of being intoxicated.
When we tried to give you the opportunity to show us that you're not intoxicated, and you just want to sit here and argue with us. Like I said, I'm not going to argue with you on the side of the road. We'll just...
You're making 0 sense.
But I'm not, you can't tell me where the road is and is. But I'm not making
Is that where
sense.
we're back to? We're doing circles?
That's what you pulled me out of.
If you have anything illegal on you, anything that's going to poke, stick, or stab me, anything that's going to be illegal, if you consider contraband if you take it into a jail facility.
Kidding me, dude? In the middle of moving.
All right, come on.
Whoa, you're gonna push me out in front of the vehicle? Holy. I'm
Yeah.
scared now.
Have a seat right here. Be careful. Don't hit your knee on the computer mounted. That's pretty bad. I don't disagree with you.
What's the charge?
Obstruction.
Obstruction of what?
It obstructed me in the performance of my duties.
What duty?
You obstructed me in the performance of my violation of your constitutional rights, so I'll violate another one.
I'm trying to perform an investigation here, and you won't answer any of my
I
questions.
answered every question you asked me.
Okay.
What questions did I answer?
You didn't answer any of my questions. You just asked more questions, and why I needed to know.
Oh, he answered his name, where he was going, where he was coming from. He didn't answer any of your questions. Again, gross exaggeration for the purposes of manipulation.
And I tried to explain it to you.
All of your questions.
So we'll argue about it in court. That's fine.
No.
I'll show you.
Tow it and I'll inventory it.
Tow it and I'll inventory it. This is another favorite reason why we do stuff, is because if they tow the vehicle, then they get to do what's called an inventory search. And if in the course of that inventory search, where they're supposedly looking for valuable items so that they don't get stolen, or that they're preserved because now you've been taken away from your ability to protect your property. But if they stumble on a gun, or they stumble on some drugs, or they stumble on anything like that, well, that's good to go. That is evidence of a crime. They'll use it against you. And I've never, ever seen the inventory search where they go, oh, here's the diamond ring. You know, they go through, they inventory everything in there, but the only thing I ever see are the contraband, the illegal things. I've never seen anything of value. So this whole idea of an inventory search is for your benefit is complete bullshit.
Ask somebody here if it's free to stay. I mean, it's partially in the
It's
city
partially in
property.
the, yeah, so, yeah.
I'll have Constantine meet you over there.
Okay.
This is cool. Business owner in this town. Member of the Chamber of Commerce, taking a nap because I work myself. Did you ever have a job?
I'll offer you a blood test. Hang on just a second. You have been arrested, and you are requested to submit to a test or tests to determine the presence and or concentration of intoxicants in your body. The test will be a blood test. If a blood test is performed, it will be done by approved medical personnel under Oklahoma law. If you complete the state's test, you may have an additional test at your own expense. You are not entitled to consult with an attorney prior to making your decision to submit to the state's test. You may refuse the state's test, but as a consequence, your driving privileges will be revoked or denied. If you are 21 years of age or older and the test is .08 or more, alcohol concentration, your driving privileges will be revoked or denied. Will you take the state's test? It's going to be a blood test.
I don't understand. I can't talk to an attorney.
That's correct. This is the implied consent test
Yeah,
request.
I see
Okay.
what it says, but I don't understand. First of all, I didn't do anything wrong. You know I'm not intoxicated. And
I don't know that you're not intoxicated. You have the option to submit to the state's test. I can read it to you again if you would like for more clarification. It's going to be a blood
it
test.
doesn't really clarify, I mean, what...
This is the state law, and this is what I'm required to read you.
I understand.
Okay,
I
and you have the right to say
understand.
that you will or you will not.
So my driving privileges were revoked if I refuse.
If you refuse. So
Until when? I mean, that's what I'm just not understanding.
until you go through the court, until you go through the court process, and they determine.
This is...
Well, you've been arrested. Okay.
I don't believe
I don't think that you're. I don't feel that you're drinking alcohol, but I think you're under the influence of something.
Really?
Yeah, I'm
I'm
thinking
down there slamming heroin. It was halfway between my house and home, or my house and work.
some kind of drugs, pills, something. So
I'm under the influence of owning a business and working more often than I sleep.
okay, you want me to read this test again?
No.
Or you will not take the state's test? Okay. 30 supervisors. You would log down at this time. It says that has refused to take the state's test. All right, go ahead. He's through Oklahoma driver's license. He was just arguing the whole time. He wouldn't tell me anything. Like,
I'll go out and take pictures on your camera. You have signed on for service?
I am signed on.
On your phone.
According to court records, Mr. Martin was ultimately charged with being in actual physical control of a motor vehicle while under the influence. He was not charged with obstruction. However, on March 31st, 2025, the charge was dismissed at the state's request.
All right. I have already said everything I had to say in the beginning. I tried to shut up later. I don't need to say anymore. You see the problem here. No training on constitutional rights, so you just have to make it up as you go along. You violate people's constitutional rights because there's absolutely no accountability, because qualified immunity protects you, and you can just go ahead and arrest people if they don't comply with your demands. And even if they win later, doesn't matter. You got them. You showed them. Till the next time, this is Wolf 6 from the Wolfgram Worldwide Headquarters, downtown Minneapolis, out here.